Okay, everybody, we're recording, and the reason is I was originally asked to do this presentation on Thursday for Helen Craig and her circle. Sean learned that we were doing that and asked if I could come and do it today, and I said, of course, I'll be glad to. In the meantime, we sold our house, and the buyer wants us out Thursday. and so Helen and I discussed it, and we arranged with our tech staff to record today, and so they're going to be showing this in Helen's group on Thursday. So Helen, to you and your circle, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to let us do this and it not be live. I'll be loading a truck on Thursday. Let me just say this, that Helen asked me when I met with her group to say a little bit, just a few minutes, about our upcoming trip to Greece and Turkey. Then she asked me to speak for a few moments about the current situation in Israel. And then she asked me to share with the group about our upcoming plans, some of you who may not know anything about that. So that's what we're going to do today, if that's all right. And I anticipate that'll take about 20 to 25 minutes. And depending on how long you want to stay, I could stay a little longer and talk specifically about the Israel-Palestine conflict and give you a little bit more insight into that maybe, okay? So will that work?
Yeah.
We're good. So we leave a week from this Sunday to go to Greece and Turkey. We have some folks from Christ United who will be going with us, but we also have a few folks from the Delta. We have a few folks from Northeast Mississippi who will be going. This is a repeat of a trip that we made 7 years ago here at Christ United. And there are two parts to this trip. First of all, the first part is in Turkey, and it's to visit the 7 churches of Revelation. Okay, and I want to just say that these are not symbolic churches. They're actual churches in actual communities named Sardis and Smyrna and Philadelphia and Laodicea. All of their actual they were actual cities, part of the Roman Empire, and churches were located in these places. The Christians living in those places faced a lot of extreme pressure because these were mostly Roman towns and cities, and being in a Roman town and city came with all of the stuff of life in Rome, especially worship, which included multiple gods, but also included what was known as the imperial cult. And the imperial cult involved the worship of the emperor himself. And so if you lived in a Roman city, you were expected to do all this stuff, and obviously Christians couldn't do that. So this created all kinds of pressures and persecutions, and the book of Revelation really functions in a very symbolic way to talk about the trials and tribulations of being a faithful follower of Jesus when you're being persecuted. And it was written in kind of a code language, a language known as apocalyptic literature that was not meant to be interpreted literally, but the symbols speak, okay? It's like reading an editorial cartoon in the newspaper. You know, that's the way the book of Revelation is intended to function. So the first part of the trip, we're visiting these actual places. There's a wonderful place that we visit called Miletus. And if you're familiar with that, it's because it's mentioned in Acts chapter 20, I think verse 18. Miletus is like a suburb of ancient Ephesus. And when Paul stirs up the people in Ephesus, he's forced to leave, so he sends for the elders from the church in Ephesus who meet him in Miletus. And in the theater, the ancient Roman theater there at Miletus, Paul has his farewell with these elders of the Ephesian church. And it's very tearful parting. You can go back and read about it. And so we'll sit in the place where Paul said goodbye to the church where he stayed the longest, okay? And then went on. Once we finish up in Turkey, we actually get on board a large ferry, and we go across the Bosphorus Straits that separates Asia from Europe. So we sail from Turkey, which is Asia Minor. We sail from Turkey over to Greece, and we land near Thessaloniki and Philippi, and then we go to Athens and Corinth and Berea and all of these places where, so this part of the trip focuses on Paul's work, Paul's missionary journeys. The first part's really about John and Revelation, and the second part is about Paul. So that's what our trip involves. And you know, it's interesting, I always tell people, and they're surprised to hear this, we enjoy Turkey more than we do Greece. Even though Turkey is a Muslim nation, Turkey, by and large, usually has less turmoil than Greece. Greece is always in a state of calamity, politically, economically, whatever. The last time we were there, the farmers were on strike. And you may remember from the news, their tractors, these huge tractors, they would block the interstates. We ran into that, and our guide went and said, look, I got a busload of American Christians. They're not here to bother anybody. Would you let them go through? And they said, give us 5 minutes and we'll let you through. And they did. You know, they didn't want to appear to be just letting everybody through, so they said, give us 5 minutes and you can pass, and we did. So, but Greece is obviously a nice place as well, and we'll enjoy being there again. So any questions about any of that before I talk about Israel a little bit? Okay, let me do that. We were actually scheduled to fly from Greece to Israel this year. When we get through with this group, we're going to Israel and then to Jordan. But obviously the attack from October 7th and the war that's gone on since has led us to cancel that. Several people have asked about our friends there. Our friends in Israel are primarily Christian and Muslim Palestinian. We do know a few Jewish people and are friendly with them, but most of our daily contact is either with Muslim Palestinians or with Palestinian Christians. And so all of our friends are okay. Jerusalem is far enough north from Gaza that very limited damage occurred in Jerusalem as a result of all the rockets that Hamas fired. Although our friend Elvis, our driver, Ahmad Siam is his name, one rocket made it to his neighborhood and blew up, and fragments of that rocket landed in his yard. So that was as close as any of our friends got to physical harm. We've talked to a number of our guide friends and others, and they're all okay. But life obviously is very different for them right now. The tourism industry is by far Israel's largest business, and so when tourists aren't coming, everybody suffers. And so their life is very difficult now. Not only is the economy struggling, but you have greater animosity between the different groups in the country. I'm sure you've heard that, you know, this is Israel over here. This is Jordan over here, and separating them, you have the Jordan River, Sea of Galilee, a lake up here in the north, and the Dead Sea down here, okay? And on paper, you have a bean-shaped area right here, like a big butter bean, okay? That's supposed to be the West Bank. And this is the land supposedly reserved for the Palestinian people after 1948. Unfortunately, you've had, since 1948, Israelis going into the West Bank and setting up these settlements that you hear about all the time. And so this is an extremely divisive issue, even today. So that today the West Bank looks like somebody took a shotgun and you have this shot pattern because the big bean has been broken up, fragmented by so many Jewish settlements. And those of you, I know a number of you have been there. Who's been with us? Yeah. A number of you have been there. We point out these Jewish settlements. The largest one is a city of 100,000. These are not tiny places, all of them. But they're sitting in the middle of what should be Arab land, okay? And it's just very, very frustrating. And people say, well, why can't they work it out? Because the Palestinian Authority says, we can't talk peace unless we solve this settler issue. And the Israeli government historically has said, no, let's just come and talk and everything will be on the table. But they can't even resolve that, the starting point. So it's a difficult situation. What does a typical trip to Israel look like for us? We land in Tel Aviv, which is, Tel Aviv is over here, okay? And then we bus up and spend our first night here along the Mediterranean. And then we drive inland to the Sea of Galilee. We spend our first 3 nights up here making day trips every day. We drive all the way up north to the borders of Lebanon and Syria. And then after we spend a whole day around the Sea of Galilee. Okay, and then this is the area over here known as the Golan Heights. So we drive up to the north, visit Caesarea Philippi and ancient Dan, and then we come down through the Golan Heights and visit a couple of places, and then we drive south to Jerusalem, and we spend 4 nights and 5 days there, and we're making field trips down to the Jordan Valley. We're making field trips to Bethlehem, and we spend a couple of days in Jerusalem and 1 whole day in what's known as the Old City of Jerusalem. The city of Jerusalem's 1.5 million people, and there's this small spot called the Old City. It's a very small spot, and this roughly approximates where ancient Jerusalem was located. The beautiful Dome of the Rock, the shiny golden dome, it sits where the temple used to sit. So we spend a whole day in the Old City, actually walking everywhere, visiting, following the traditional Via Dolorosa that Palm Sunday, Good Friday rather, pilgrims follow. But then we take people and show them the real path to the cross, which is different, okay? And then we cross over usually into Jordan. Most of the people who go on the trips go to Jordan as well. We always recommend, if you're going to go that far, you don't want to miss Jordan. Jordan is the most moderate, peaceful country in the Middle East. Historically, fewer incidents of unrest and terror than any other place in the Middle East, okay? We've had times when things were so tense in Israel that going to Jordan was like being on vacation, okay? That much of a difference. So we crossed the river at the Allenby Bridge, which some of you will know that name from World War I. Okay, the British General Allenby, because Palestine was under the control of Great Britain after World War I, and so we cross over and we drive up through Amman, and we actually come up to a place called Jerash. Jerash is the best preserved, third best preserved Roman city in the world, after Rome and after Ephesus. Okay, so Jerash is a beautiful place. Then we drive down to the capital city of Amman, which is about 7 or 8 million people, and spend the night there. The next day we get up and drive a long way, way down here